That was fine for him to be the king, my mother to be the queen. But then they coined that Marianne and I were the little princesses, and I was absolutely didn't like that. I did not want to be called a princess.
San Miguel Island is the third largest of the 8 California Channel Islands. It's often called the birthplace of the winds.
The winds can be devastating, gale force winds, 60 mile an hour.
It is surrounded by shoals and rock pinnacles and submerged reefs.
The rains can be pelting, torrential rains.
Very few people, historically, ventured out to San Miguel Island because of the dangers involved in getting there.
It's very treacherous with the currents coming in from the Point Conception area.
It's the graveyard of ships because of the more than 36 shipwrecks that are known for that island.
As a matter of fact, our house was built from one of those shipwrecks.
It takes a particular kind of individual to want to get away there. Both Captain Waters, who was tired of working for someone else and wanted to be his own boss, and Herbie, who felt increasingly oppressed by city life, wanted to have his own turf. Who doesn't? It's the pioneer spirit of America, and it illustrates it.
My father was Herbert Stever Lester. He served in World War I. He got badly wounded with shrapnel. He was then sent to Walter Reed Army Hospital, and that's where he met Bob Brooks.
I don't know whether they were roommates or in a ward or whatever, but they were side by side. They started talking, and Daddy, at some point, had talked about the island.
He was fascinated by the fact that Bob Brooks had this ranch out on San Miguel Island.
My father always needed somebody to look after the ranch, make sure people didn't steal sheep.
And Herbie was an amazingly capable man for a situation like that. He could fix anything, he could shoe a horse, he could shear.
He wanted to get out of New York, and he was a socialite, I guess, and so he offered him the position, but he said, you got to be married to go out on the island.
My mother was Elizabeth Sherman, and her father did not believe in women going to college, and at that point, she was ready to become the debutante. And so she had her debutante party in New York City, and that was, of course, very fancy.
And in 1930, he asked his bride, Elizabeth, to come with him to live on this idyllic island.
Of course, it was beautiful coming into the harbor. It reminded her of Cape Cod. You know, she was in love, and it was a big surprise when she first saw the ranch house. It was very stark. She had told me, she said, you know, your dad forgot to tell me a few things about, you know, little niceties.
I'm sure she was quite shocked when she got to the island of his description with a house built so that its back broke the winds.
There was no electricity, just candlelight and kerosene lamps. It would not be uncommon to see the little mice or the black stink bugs walking along in the bedroom floor.
Elizabeth Lester put her New York touches on furniture, windows. She made antimacassars for chairs.
And then, of course, my father started hanging all of his rifles. He built a beautiful fireplace to keep us warm. Being in that living room, it was so cozy. We would read stories. We had a battery-powered radio. We loved listening to Fibber McGee and Molly. Of course, my parents, we always heard the evening news. It was just special.
With Fibber McGee and Molly.
I was in San Miguel Island when a ranch house burned up. Was fishing halibut there, and the Navy was shooting at this target.
Back in the days after the ranch closed, the Navy exercised its ownership of the island, and then they started to use the island for bombing and missile testing. one particular group. They were going to land out on the flats, and when the Navy noticed that somebody landed out here, they sent a plane out to chase these folks off the island. And the flare that dropped up here started a fire.
The wind was coming up, and it just blew the fire right across the island. And that was the end of the ranch house.
Okay, the next room here is the Killer Whale Bar, which is right around in here.
And in the bar, he decorated the walls with his collection of rifles, one of which was a whale gun. Herb delighted in serving his island guests whiskey at the Killer Whale Bar.
I guess there was no zoning back then. You could put the school right next to the bar.
That's right. The mother would ring that bell every morning at 9 o'clock, and we marched out to school. Well, my mother had all these various things that we were graded on: spelling, arithmetic, your deportment. I'm sure my sister got the higher grades. But I have to be honest, with me, I really wanted to be outside. I loved going down to the beach. There were these caves I could play in. There was a beautiful white sandy beach. It was heavenly.